There's a reason I don't particularly like it when people try to point me to any random controversy of the minute. Controversies are short-lived and often don't last long enough for me to get my full thoughts out before they've died and everyone has moved on to the next shiny object. There's only so much material you can draw from the complain train. This is why, despite people begging for it, I haven't done a serious glass of water on pseudo-watchdog groups like the Parents Television Council, the Westboro Baptist Church, Gamergate, or Donald Trump. There's very little material to work with. They're crazy, I know they're crazy, you know they're crazy, what else is there to be said other than some cheeky glib remarks? But sometimes someone will direct me to a topic they want me to address and I find a completely different topic hiding underneath like a hotel mint. So indulge me for a minute if you will. You see, in the middle of September, my Tumblr inbox blew up about an episode of South Park, namely an episode in which Parker and Stone elect to make fun of political correctness along with Caitlyn Jenner. Or, as it's also known as, make fun of political correctness along with the topical celebrity that makes for an easy target. Or, as it's also known as, the plot of 90% of South Park's episodes. There was once a time where I would have defended South Park to the death in the name of being against political correctness and being a supporter of free speech, but thankfully I've grown up. However, one thing has remained the same, yet with a fresh coat of paint. South Park doesn't bother me, even when they should bother me. As I've grown up, a lot of the, for lack of a better word, morals that South Park likes to push are morals I've realized are both anti-intellectual and regressive. The line between Parker and Stone and some anonymous jagoff on a message board being paranoid about dem SJWs has vanished in the modern age. But Parker and Stone have been doing this song and dance for about 20 years now. They spent 20 years putting new masks on the same joke. Take some liberal sacred cow like environmentalism, tolerance, theft being a bad thing, or even just treating people like decent human beings and start making contrarian points against it for about 20 minutes. So what the people filling my inbox mean to say is that South Park deliberately missed the point about something and was proudly smug about it? I'm shocked. You don't even need to be left-wing to see the problem here. No joke is funny the 100th time you've heard it, especially when your humor appeals mostly to a demographic that gets smaller and smaller and smaller with each passing generation. South Park is a series that ages very poorly because it lives and dies on shock humor. A taboo is a finite thing that can only be exploited so long as you keep raising the stakes. Cartman being an angry, foul-mouthed jagoff may have been shocking at first, but it's humor like South Park that leads to a society getting less and less sensitive as the years progress. So when the foul-mouthed little boy stopped shocking people, South Park moved into gore and sex. When that stopped shocking people, they moved into mocking tolerance. When that stopped shocking people, they moved into the mental picture of Strawberry Shortcake tied up and dead with piss in her eye. And when that stopped shocking people, they moved into mocking gays and minorities and trans people along with rape and abortion jokes along with the increasingly grotesque imagery. They just kept upping and upping the shock value but not adding any actual comedy save for a few token moments. You see, contrary to what the internet may tell you, people get less and less sensitive as time goes on. The delusion that society's become more politically correct is a result of our acceptable targets having changed. Back in the 1970s, you could make insulting jokes about gay people and nobody cared. Well, that's not true. Gay people cared. It's just that nobody cared what they thought about it because gay people were second-class citizens. In 2015, they aren't second-class citizens anymore. Now most comedians are making fun of Fox News, Donald Trump, and neo-reactionary groups because, while those groups may get offended, nobody cares about offending them because they're jerks. Over time, the racist caricatures of Japanese people during World War II were looked upon with shame, but we still freely make fun of the Nazis because nobody cares what Nazis think because the Nazis were jerks. Nothing kills a bad joke faster than empathy for your fellow human beings. It's said that all comedy is based on misery, but there's a significant difference between punching someone in the stomach and slicing at the jugular. The phrase, "I'm offended," is a phrase that pleads to your sense of empathy, which is entirely dependent on who you empathize with. South Park is a different story, however. While all the same traps that bad comedy can fall into would likely apply, South Park has been around for too long for them to be the first one anybody would look to. You see, I don't hate episodes like Stunning and Brave, Mr. Garrison's Fancy New Vagina, or Cartoon Wars because they're contrarian or dehumanizing. I mean, they are contrarian and dehumanizing, but South Park doesn't deserve that kind of vindication. I hate these episodes because they're boring. This is why I take complaints about political correctness from comedians with a huge grain of salt. If you tell a joke to a room of people and they don't laugh, is that them being too sensitive, or are you just not as good a comedian as you like to think you are? And in most cases, complaints about political correctness come from people who failed to make their audience laugh and try to conceal it under bullshit. There's a reason I don't buy into the myth of the social justice warrior, and that's because it's damn near impossible to actually find them on my own. Any example I'm ever shown of some kind of SJW infection has had to be shoved under my nose by someone who spends all their time looking for SJWE posts to screenshot and catalog. And that one obsessive knobhead is what creates the illusion of the social justice warrior. Whenever someone does come across as if they're deliberately looking to be offended, that one person's indignation is broadcast by 100 different drama-hungry cranks. topics. What would normally be just one isolated tweet that would have otherwise disappeared like a fart in the wind becomes this massive stank because the individual's opinion had to be forced onto the main stage by people who, ironically, are hungrily looking for something to be angry and upset about. The people who are so desperate for the social justice warrior boogeyman to go away invoke the Streisand effect every single time they complain about it. More importantly, it begs the question, why call somebody a social justice warrior when you could simply call them wrong? I mean, if they're wrong on a given subject, or if they're wrong on a given issue, why do you need the buzzword? Even more to the point, if they're just as disingenuous and just as out to harass as some random 8chan member is, why did the term asshole fall out of fashion? You see, George Carlin never had to worry about the politically correct. Gabriel Iglesias never had to worry about the politically correct. Russell Peters never had to worry about the politically correct. John Panette never had to worry about the politically correct. Why? Because they were genuinely funny and didn't have to rely on being shocking or incendiary. Well, okay, George Carlin did, but he was genuinely thought-provoking about it, and he knew where the line was. He may have brushed a toe against it from time to time, but at the end of the day, he never really crossed it. Do you know who the most popular comedian in Saudi Arabia is? Jeff fucking Dunham. Don't tell me that political correctness is out of control. I think the more likely scenario is that you're just not very funny.